It's strange how a stadium full of people can feel empty when the only faces you want to see never show up. I stood there in my graduation gown, diploma in hand, scanning the crowd like a fool. Thousands of people cheering, cameras flashing, families hugging their graduates, and me? I was alone. Completely, devastatingly alone. Not a single cheer from my family. Just silence, the kind that stings deeper than any insult, the kind that makes you question if you even matter at all. I kept looking. I kept hoping. Maybe they were just late. Maybe they got stuck in traffic. Maybe Dad changed his mind. But deep down, I knew. I knew they weren't coming. I knew because of what he'd said that morning, the words still burning in my chest like acid. Don't expect us there. You'll never make us proud pretending to be someone you're not. Pretending. That's what he called it. 4 years of sleepless nights, countless assignments, working 2 jobs just to stay afloat. All of it was just pretending. I wasn't playing football. I wasn't bringing home trophies. I wasn't Dylan. So nothing I did mattered. Nothing I accomplished was real to them. I watched other families taking photos, parents crying tears of joy, siblings jumping with excitement. And I stood there holding my diploma like it was made of paper and broken promises. Because that's all it was to them. Worthless. I was worthless in their eyes. The humiliation wasn't just the empty seats. It was the realization that I had been foolish enough to think this time would be different. That maybe, just maybe, this achievement would be enough. That maybe they'd show up and say, "We're proud of you." But they didn't. They chose not to. They chose Dylan's football practice over my graduation. They always chose him. I left that stadium with my diploma and a heart that felt like it had been crushed into dust. People congratulated me. Strangers smiled. But none of it reached me. Because the only validation I'd ever wanted was from the people who refused to give it. If you've ever achieved something big and still felt invisible, whisper "I get it" in the comments. You don't owe anyone your silence anymore. It wasn't new. This feeling of being second best, of being the shadow in my own family, it had been my entire life. My dad, Robert, always made it clear that my brother, Dylan, was the real son. The one who mattered. The one who made him proud. Dylan played football, brought trophies home, and had the entire neighborhood cheering for him every Friday night. He was loud, confident, athletic, everything Dad wanted in a son. And me? I was the quiet one. The one who fixed the computer when it crashed. The one who helped Mom figure out her phone. The one who got straight A's but never got a pat on the back because grades weren't masculine enough. I wasn't scoring touchdowns. I wasn't making crowds roar. So what was I, really? Just the disappointment they had to tolerate. Mom would say, "Don't take it personally, honey. Your father just wants you to do better." But better always meant different. It meant be like your brother. It meant erase yourself and become someone else entirely, someone they could actually love. I remember being 12 years old, winning the regional science fair. I was so excited. I ran home with my ribbon, bursting through the door, ready to show them. Dad was watching Dylan's game highlights on TV. I held up my ribbon and said, "Dad, I won." He glanced at it for maybe 2 seconds and said, "That's nice. Come watch your brother's touchdown. Now that's impressive." That's when I learned. I learned that my victories would always be footnotes in Dylan's story. I learned that no matter what I achieved, it would never be enough. Because I wasn't him. The favoritism wasn't even subtle. Dylan got a car for his 16th birthday. I got a lecture about responsibility when I asked for help with a used laptop for school. Dylan's college tuition? Fully paid. Mine? You're smart enough to get scholarships, figure it out. And I did figure it out. I worked. I scraped by. I took out loans that would haunt me for years. Because that's what you do when you're the son nobody wanted to invest in. But here's the thing. Somewhere in all that pain, I found something they didn't expect. I found purpose. In college, I started working on a small startup project. Nothing huge, just an idea I believed in. An app that could help small businesses streamline their operations. I spent every spare moment coding, designing, testing. It gave me something that my family never did. It gave me hope. When I mentioned it to Dad once, during a rare phone call, he laughed. Actually laughed. You're wasting your time with that tech nonsense. Get a real job when you graduate. Something stable. Something respectable. Translation: stop dreaming and accept that you'll never be special. Mom tried to soften it like always. Honey, your father just worries about your future. Maybe focus on your degree first. But I heard what she wasn't saying. She agreed with him. They both thought I was chasing a fantasy. So I stopped telling them. I stopped sharing my dreams, my progress, my small victories. Because every time I did, they found a way to diminish it, to make me feel smaller than I already felt. I kept my startup secret. I worked on it in silence, in the margins of my life, in the hours when everyone else was sleeping. And the bitterness? Oh, it grew. It festered. Every time I saw Dylan's face light up when Dad walked into a room. Every time Mom posted about his football achievements on Facebook while completely ignoring my Dean's List status. Every time they asked me for tech support but never asked how I was doing. The bitterness became part of me, a constant companion whispering, "You'll never be enough for them." Ever loved people who measured your worth only when you became useful? Drop a broken heart. I just want to know I'm not alone. The night before graduation, I got a text. I was sitting in my tiny apartment, my graduation gown hanging on the back of the door, trying to feel something other than dread about the next day. My phone buzzed. For a split second, my heart jumped. Maybe it was them saying they'd be there. Maybe they'd changed their minds. I looked at the screen. It was Dad. Not congratulations. Not we're proud of you. Not even good luck tomorrow. Just send $2,000. Dylan's car broke down on his way to his girlfriend's prom. I stared at those words until they blurred. $2,000. Not a request, a demand. No, please. No, if you can. Just an expectation that I would drop everything and rescue Dylan. Again. My tuition loan wasn't even cleared yet. I was living on ramen and stress, working part-time at a coffee shop just to make rent. I had $23 in my checking account and a credit card I was terrified to use. And here they were asking me, no, telling me to send money I didn't have for Dylan's car, for Dylan's prom date, for Dylan's life that always seemed to matter more than mine. The rage that filled me wasn't hot. It was cold. It was the kind of anger that comes from years of being used, ignored, and taken for granted. It was the accumulated weight of every time they chose him over me, every time they made me feel like I didn't matter, every time they treated me like an ATM instead of a son. I thought about all the times I'd said yes before. When Dylan needed money for his fraternity dues. When he crashed his first car and I helped pay the deductible. When he wanted to take his girlfriend on a vacation and I sent him $300 I'd saved for books. Every time I said yes. Every time I convinced myself that maybe this would make them love me. Maybe this would make me worthy. But it never did. They never thanked me. They never acknowledged it. They just expected it. Because that's what I was to them, a resource to be tapped when Dylan needed something. I stared at that message for what felt like hours. My hands were shaking. My chest felt tight. And then something inside me just broke. Or maybe it finally healed. I don't know which. I typed just one word. No. Then I hit send and put my phone face down on the table. I didn't check it again for 3 days. Those 3 days were the longest of my life. Part of me felt free, liberated from years of people-pleasing and desperate attempts to earn love that was never going to come. But another part of me felt terrified. I'd crossed a line. I'd said the one word they never expected to hear from me. I'd refused them. My phone kept buzzing. I could hear it vibrating against a table, but I couldn't bring myself to look. I knew what was coming. I knew there would be anger, guilt-tripping, maybe even threats. So I ignored it all. I went to my graduation alone. I walked across that stage alone. I celebrated alone. 3 days later, I finally looked. 17 missed calls. 12 text messages. Most from Dad, a few from Mom. One from Dylan calling me selfish and ungrateful. But it was the last message that destroyed me. From Dad, "You're no longer family." So I gave myself that permission. I chose peace over penance. I chose my future over their past. I chose to believe that I didn't owe my healing to the people who broke me. The pain didn't disappear, but it became manageable. It became something I carried instead of something that carried me. Have you ever wanted to help someone who hurt you, but couldn't risk reopening that wound? Say enough if you've ever chosen peace over pain. 5 years later, I was sitting at the head of a glass boardroom table on the 23rd floor of a high-rise in downtown Chicago. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, the lake stretching out like liquid mercury in the afternoon sun. My company, the same project Dad had mocked, the same tech nonsense he'd laughed at, had just closed its first multi-million-dollar deal with a Fortune 500 client. 23 employees now. 7-figure revenue. Features in tech magazines. Investors calling me instead of the other way around. Everything I'd built in the ashes of that rejection had become something they couldn't ignore, couldn't diminish, couldn't laugh away. I was reviewing quarterly projections when my assistant buzzed the intercom. "Sir, there's someone here for the 2 o'clock interview." HR sent him up. I'd forgotten we were hiring for a senior operations position. I told her to send him to the conference room, that I'd be there in 5. Then she added, almost as an afterthought, "He says his name is Robert Hayes." My heart stopped. Completely stopped. The pen in my hand clattered onto the glass table, the sound echoing in the sudden silence. Robert Hayes. My father. Here. At my company. For a job interview. I couldn't breathe. 5 years of silence, of building walls to protect myself, of convincing myself I didn't care anymore. All of it crumbled in an instant. The pain came flooding back, sharp and fresh as if no time had passed at all. I stood on shaking legs and walked to the conference room. Through the glass walls, I could see him before he saw me. He looked older. So much older. Thinner, his shoulders somehow smaller than I remembered. His suit was dated, worn at the edges. He held a briefcase that looked like it had seen better days, and his hands, those hands that had never clapped for me, never hugged me, never reached out, were folded nervously in his lap. He didn't recognize me at first. I'd changed too. No longer the uncertain kid desperate for approval. I'd grown into myself, confident, successful, everything I'd become in his absence. I stepped inside, and the door clicked shut with a finality that felt significant. "Good morning, Mr. Hayes," I said, my voice steady despite the chaos in my chest. "I'll be conducting your interview today." The color drained from his face. His eyes went wide, then filled with something I'd never seen there before. Fear. No, not just fear. Recognition. Regret. The weight of 5 years of silence crashing down in a single moment. "Jake," he whispered. "Just my name, like a prayer or an apology or both." "It's Jacob in professional settings," I corrected. Colder than I meant to be. Or maybe exactly as cold as I meant to be. You're here for the operations manager position?
He couldn't speak.
He just stared at me like he was seeing a ghost. And maybe he was. Maybe I was the ghost of the son he'd thrown away, come back to haunt him in the cruelest twist of fate. The silence that followed was the longest of my life. Longer than graduation. Longer than that night I sent no. Longer than 3 years of wondering if they'd ever reach out. In that silence, entire conversations happened. Years of hurt and anger and disappointment filled the space between us like smoke. He started, then stopped. His voice cracked. I didn't know. That I'd succeed? I asked. Or that you'd need me? That landed like a physical blow. I watched him flinch, watched his shoulders cave inward. And I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No victory. Just emptiness where all that anger used to be. He didn't ask for the job. He didn't pitch himself. He didn't pull out his resume or try to impress me with his qualifications. He just sat there, looking at me with eyes that finally saw me and said, I knew you'd make something of yourself. I just didn't know it'd be without us. Without us. Like they were victims in this story. Like I was the one who'd left instead of being thrown away. You made that choice, I said quietly. Not me. I know, he whispered. God help me, I know. Part of me wanted him to hurt the way I'd hurt. Part of me wanted to reject him the way he'd rejected me, to let him feel the sting of being told he wasn't good enough. To watch him graduate from the interview empty-handed and alone. But mostly I was just tired. Tired of carrying all this pain. Tired of letting him take up space in my head rent-free. If silence ever became your revenge, drop a crescent moon. It means you healed in peace. I thought I wanted revenge. For years, I fantasized about this exact moment. About him needing something from me. About having the power to say no the way he'd said no to me my entire life. I thought seeing him brought low would somehow heal the wounds he'd left. I thought his regret would fill the emptiness inside me. Turns out, I just wanted closure. And closure doesn't look like revenge. It looks like acceptance. It looks like finally understanding that their inability to love me was never about my worth. It was about their limitations. My dad never apologized. Not really. He sat there in that conference room, trying to find words that wouldn't come, and I realized something profound. I didn't need his apology anymore. I didn't need his validation. I didn't need him to finally see me and say I was enough. Because I'd already decided I was enough. I'd proven it to myself in every line of code, every business deal, every moment I chose to keep building instead of breaking. Success hits different when you stop chasing validation. When I was building this company in those early years, I thought I was proving them wrong. But I wasn't. I was proving myself right. I was proving that the quiet kid who fixed computers had value. That the son they discarded had vision. That I didn't need their belief to create something beautiful. I didn't hire him. I couldn't. Not because I wanted to punish him, but because we both knew it wouldn't work. You can't build a healthy professional relationship on the ruins of a broken family. The past would always be there, a ghost in every meeting, every interaction. But before he left, before he stood on those shaking legs and picked up that worn briefcase, I said something I never thought I'd say. Dad. His name felt strange in my mouth after so many years of silence. I hope you find peace. I really do. I hope you find a job. I hope things get better for you. Not because you deserve it. I don't know if you do or don't. But because holding on to anger was killing me, and I choose to let it go. He looked at me with tears streaming down his face, and for the first time in my life, I saw him as he really was. Not the larger-than-life figure who'd haunted my childhood. Not the villain of my story. Just a man. A flawed, broken man who'd made terrible choices and was living with the consequences. "I'm sorry," he finally managed. "I'm so sorry." I nodded. Not forgiveness, not exactly, but acknowledgement. I heard him. I just didn't need his apology to move forward anymore. I'd already moved forward without it. He left my office, and I watched him walk away one last time. Part of me felt grief for the relationship we never had, for the father he could have been. But mostly I felt light. Lighter than I'd felt in years. Because I'd learned something crucial. Peace isn't found in making them hurt the way they hurt you. Peace is found in deciding they don't get to hurt you anymore. It's found in building a life so full of meaning and purpose that their absence stops feeling like a wound and starts feeling like space. Space for people who actually love you. Space for dreams they couldn't diminish. Space for the version of yourself they never got to meet. If you've ever had to choose peace over family, type, "I choose peace." Let's see how many of us finally stopped chasing approval and started chasing ourselves instead.